Assessment for learning can help improve education in many different ways, but assessment for learning is a bit of a tricky name because it includes the word assessment, which teachers and students often automatically associate with tests as we know them. In other words, students having to prove that they have learned something and that they can remember it and retrieve it in a very artificial situation that a test or exam really is. But when we're talking about assessment for learning, we're talking about taking stock, about helping the student and the teacher see how much progress they have made and what are the areas where perhaps students need to work a little bit more to achieve goals which have been set. So what we do when we practice assessment for learning is looking at the process of learning and the goals which have been set, and we see how we can tweak what we do in the classroom and how we can help students in the learning in order to make this learning more effective, but also more motivating and less stressful. In this way, assessment for learning is contributing to changing the image of education to an enjoyable, motivating, and generally positive experience, which helps everyone achieve their real potential. I believe that a widespread use of assessment for learning can change the lives of thousands and thousands of students who cannot fit into today's model of education, who suffer and hate school. Learning is exciting, and assessment for learning is helping us all to see it as such. Assessment for learning has got many visible benefits. It's a very positive and motivating concept because it looks at what students can do instead of focusing on what students cannot do and punishing them for coming up short on expectations, which is unfortunately very often the case with tests and exams. Secondly, assessment for learning recognizes that learners differ in their tempo of learning and in learning strategies. And it provides space for the teacher and for the students to adjust the process to that. It also teaches learners to communicate their learning needs and makes them open to talking about things that they need to work on. And at the same time, it helps change the perspective on mistakes from something that students should be punished for, and so something that needs to be avoided at all cost, to one of the most valuable helpers in the process of learning. Assessment for learning shows our students that they can be in charge of their own learning. And this is a real shift in terms of balance of power in education. The teacher is no longer the only decision maker as the only person who has knowledge. Assessment for learning recognizes that learners have the ability for introspection and for communicating their needs. And yes, it's the teacher who has the subject knowledge and methodology skills. But to best use them, the teacher listens to the learner, who becomes the center of the teaching learning process.